Good morning, everybody. I just want to thank Red Hat and all the partners for basically inviting me to this. I'm excited about talking about this. I try to kind of keep a low profile on what we do, but that whole concept of collaborating is key to us. And Special Operations Command and Airforce Special Operations Command cannot go it alone in today's world. We need partnerships. We need collaboration. Let's see if I got this. All righty. Okay. A little about myself. My name's Todd Wieser. I'm trained as an engineer, but I was a flyer for Air Force Special Operations Command. I was a planner and then an engineer for the Air Force as well. Now I'm a civilian, and I'm AFSOC's first attempt to have a Chief Technology Officer. We'll see if that carries on in a couple months or so. All right, we're going to talk about a few things. Now, in any special operations plan, you overplan. You go through every detail, and then the moment you get on stage or you go and do that operation, it changes. So I've overplanned this. I got more than enough slides. So I might move around because I assess the environment here, and there's a lot of other themes that I think I might jump onto. All right, so we're going to talk about context and what we do and why I'm here today. I'm Air Force Special Operations. I represent Air Force Special Operations Command. It is part of the United States Air Force, but it is also part of the United States Special Operations Command. We're the air arm of Special Operations Command. We're composed of air, ground, and maritime forces. It sounds a little weird, ground and maritime within Air Force Special Operations, but yes, we have elements of that. We operate globally and distributed. We have the global, the old term was the global war on terror, however you want to call the term today. We do that plus a variety of different mission sets. We often operate high risk, high exposure, and we often have situations where we cannot fail. That is the change for us. IT communications used to be a thing that you needed, but if it didn't happen, you went on your way and you made the best you could. We can't do that any longer. IT must happen. It is a go, no-go item. That requires different ways we look at things. That requires different approaches than what we've taken in the past. This is our operating domain, and it's global. Think of this as a little cell of operation. We have multiples of these across the globe at any one moment in time. You have aircraft, you have ground teams, those green little circles. You have tactical operation centers. You have operational level. Think of those as the higher headquarters. Then you have liaison nodes with other partners and agencies and governments. And then you have reach back, where we bring things back to the states or other countries to synchronize information in real time, near real time. That cannot happen without the use of open source. We've realized that for years, and that is not going to change. Open source for us will increase across those nodes to ensure interoperability, speed, and agility. That's just the bottom line. The cloud for us has a major part of this. If you look at that little reach back node, it's not one place, but our enemy takes advantage of the cloud in very interesting and dynamic ways. We have to meet or exceed their speed. That requires us to enable open source and to leverage the cloud. If we don't, we lose in many domains. Times are changing. So I'm just going to pick out a few key points on what drives us to the cloud and to open. IT, like I said, absolutely must work. Missions depend on it. When we go to fly a mission, a hostage rescue, a high-value assessment of some other sort, we take 3 aircraft to make 2. We take 3 teams to make 1. Well, with IT, we don't often do that. So we might have to change the way we do that or have distributed and highly reliable systems. The great thing about that is the commercial world's leading on that. The 9s, right? Well, the government's not that great at the 9s yet. So we need commercial world to be the 9s. And it must work. Missions today do not go and occur if IT components and networking is not working. The idea of the long evolution of a timeline of waiting for some IT to come up and the mission halts, we don't have that convenience anymore. Complexity and fragility is growing. We need automated, smart, and redundant systems. They are critical. We have technologies today that we cannot communicate and get operating on the battlefield. If I went into detail, it'd scare you a little. We have great technology, we have great capabilities, but oftentimes because of a setting or a configuration or because the way it was produced in the production pipeline, it does not work. So we have to be better. We have to be automated. We have to leverage smart machines. Networking, sharing, interoperability, automation, and presentation are key. Presentation is key, and that's the GUI, the interface. But not just that, it's the ability to network this information, bring it together so that we can make critical decisions in a moment's notice. And that networking across different systems, the government's had a challenge with that. One aircraft talking to another aircraft, an aircraft from the Airforce talking with a person on the Army. Now, we've done great strides and we're getting better, but it's still becoming a challenge we have to do. We are surrounded by complex systems of systems which require people who understand that. What is a system of system and how do you integrate and interoperate that? The great thing is there's a lot of open source technology and cloud capabilities that really thinks that way right out of the door. Cybersecurity gap is another thing. It's growing. There's paper cybersecurity and real cybersecurity, and I think probably everyone in this audience knows the difference between those two. We're still in paper cybersecurity. The government has recognized that. There's policies and things that are making that happen, but it all relies on a bunch of changes that need to happen. The convenience about the command I'm working in is we have the ability to try to influence that very early, which is extremely important. Bake that security in early. All right, enough of the pontificating and getting all that out. So we're going to talk about one instance of us, and that's the Aflac Cloud. I will tell you before I start talking about cloud, we've been very successful. We've leveraged some open source technologies on our command and control computers, believe it or not. Our little laptops that go into a tent in some country or sit back in the States or another base, as well as our aircraft. We leverage open source technology on our aircraft to do a variety of different mission effects. The Aflac Cloud, and we're not, and I just want to say this out pretty early, is that we're not purists for open source, but we are extreme open source backers and sponsors. The bottom line is delivery. Delivery. On time, on target. That is it. We work for you. And if we do not deliver on time or on target, it becomes a news article. It becomes something we're embarrassed about. And we need to protect your values and your interests to make sure that we're successful as a nation, as a part of the global partnership. To do that, we need to make sure that this technology and stuff is working, and we leverage open source to do that, and we're going to do that with the cloud as well. And we've done it with the cloud, I should say. So when did we start the cloud? The cloud started for us in 2014, and it was really about delivery. We needed to move to produce, get more capabilities out. There were some mandates. Basically, it said, hey, you got to do it a certain way. We needed better performance. We needed better resiliency and agility. We needed new web and mobile apps that were available across the globe. And we needed, through our course of action analysis and our assessment of alternatives, it kept continually pointing to the cloud and certain open source technologies related to that. The data center consolidations and the commercial cloud mandates are also what drove us to that. So we started that effort. Ironically, I'll go in that in a second. It wasn't an easy effort, I'll tell you that, especially during that time frame. We had thoughts about it in 2013, but right now we hosted a cloud-like capability on our own network. And our little organization called Digital Dagger, they're a little organization that manages our mission IT. They created that. It wasn't really a cloud, but it did virtualization in a new way. Our real first cloud effort was with AWS, and that started with level 4 and level 5. We started our individual contract with them, and we leveraged a variety of Red Hat and other open source products in that cloud, and that is up and running today. The early challenges in going to the cloud for us, and I would tell you most agencies are still feeling this, is there's still a huge amount of internal DoD resistance to move. And I don't mean at a policy level. I mean in these small shops and organizations that control IT. And a lot of that is due to uncertainty and lack of knowledge. We found that very formidable wall. Now the great thing is they'd say, well, what makes you so special that you get to go to the cloud? And I said, it's in our name. And so that got us a little in the door. There was just a lot of people that lacked cloud experience, knowledge, and skills, and then there was all this mantra, well, everybody's going to the cloud, everyone's doing it. Not in the DoD, not in the government, not really. We found ourselves to be actually out there, not all alone, but only a few key agencies were doing it. Everyone told us how to do it, though. Hey, you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way, and we're like, well, what's that based on? And we found out there wasn't a lot based on that. It was just good ideas in theory, so we tried to implement that as designed, but that didn't always work out, so we had to adjust, especially when it came to the security models that were made really for on-prem data centers. There is a general shortage of cloud experience, and I'll tell you that exists today as it did back then. And the whole concept of computer network defense, the DoD is still challenged with that. How do you do that, especially in a commercial cloud? Well, if you value data more than your mission execution, that can be a big problem. Luckily, we have a pretty clear vector on delivery, and we understand how to deal with loss. And so you compartmentalize, you encrypt, you do what you got to do to make sure the mission happens, because our enemy's doing it. Cloud access point, that's a whole another discussion for another day, but luckily the DoD is evolving that concept, and we've been working with them, and there's some good future in that. But at the beginning, it was a tough nut to crack. Okay, this is not per spec here, but this is just an example of, hey, you got a big cloud, and we're serving our leaders, our mobile users, our classrooms, other mission systems. We're feeding our courseware developers, student and unit commanders. Everything in here is focused on our mission threads, though. We try not to duplicate what the Air Force is doing or United States Special Operations Command. It is about focused air and space delivery of special operations capabilities. So luckily, that whole thing kicked off, and we had a couple apps that drove it. And what we've ended up with is essentially a tenant model. The tenant model allows us to have, like I said, we don't want to go it alone per se in terms of solving this problem, although we had to move quickly by ourselves to a certain extent. We need to bring on partners who shared the same apps and capabilities to support us. So we created a tenant model for the long run. Now, some people say we're making a business here, but that's not the goal. The goal is really to allow for our trusted partners to come in here and be able to put systems into our cloud in an easier manner because they don't have to deal with all the security and other issues as much. Ironically, this tenant model has become kind of a model to save us. We've found a lot of, I don't want to use the term hidden IT or some of those other terms, but it ends up saving us because we find things that aren't really implemented like they should, and it allows us to move them across to the cloud a little faster in a better secured environment, as well as a better performing environment. Multiple tenant types, fully managed, shared, depending on what you want to do. Eric Cass and Tobias Cahoon, they're sitting back there, raise your hands. They can go into all the details on this. They're our lead engineers for this, but this has been a way for us to be able to scale quickly and fastly and allow people not have a one centralized process of fielding and deploying, where we can be more agile and parallel opportunities. Tenant architecture also, we started this thing called a tenant account manager. We're still in the early days of that, but ultimately if you're a tenant in our cloud, and a tenant can be within our command, we have different stakeholders within our command. The goal is not only to have them have a play in it, but we give them a liaison to really make sure that their things that they're trying to strive are achieved, as well as we make sure that we're meeting all the security and compliance requirements, as well as performance and redundancy. Right now, the TAM concept, the TAMs we've got executed is 2 to 3 customers. Current status of our cloud right now, well, we're operational with multiple tenants, still much work to be done. We've got mobile device management. We have a big mobile device focus, and it's not for, although I'd like to say it's for our general and his phone, it's not. It's for the tactical user and their electronic flight bag they fly with, and it's for our tactical user who's doing more combat type of stuff out in the field. We've also are doing a lot of data sharing applications just for basic stuff, operation support, communications, relay type stuff, and then we have multiple developers and different platforms, and that brings in the discussion of cloud readiness. Not every app can go to the cloud, folks. We've learned that. We knew that, we ignored it a little, and then we made the same mistake, and then now we've learned more, and we've continued to learn more, and that is not all apps, legacy apps, are made for the cloud. And now we can go into all a bunch of details, but the cloud is a great equalizer in terms of looking at design architectures. You can see shortcuts when they're made. You can see things that just weren't thought of because they never visioned the app going to the cloud. Things like noisy neighbors, transient errors, session affinity, all can bite you. So you got to do some planning. You got to do some thinking. Our team's made up an assessment guide to see if your app's ready, and that helps us with our migrations. Scaling, automation, licensing, believe it or not, we've got products that we license, and then you can't scale the licensings to the cloud, the license to the cloud. And then there's a ton of different dependencies. These are all conversations that you can talk in plenty of time. We've also, the team created this image pipeline to have speed and agility. We had to get these stigged out images under control. And so we've done some work, and I'd like to say we're novel. We've just executed, we've delivered on these concepts that were widely around, and that was delivering these images that allow us to produce apps a lot faster, leveraging what the commercial world's doing a lot more in a DoD level. An example of that is we do these builds and then we tier off of them so we can build faster and better in a variety of different platforms. That's the sample set we got right now, and we're still working to make that more complete. So lessons learned. Cloud is unique, requires different approaches and expertise. Disciplined systems engineering is required. It just is. And I say systems engineering because you have to look at trades and balances, parts of parts. Not every app is ready for cloud. We talked about that. Choose wisely. Identity and authentication. Plan it out. Think it out. You don't have to have the perfect solution, but just have one that you can easily move across different things. Automate, automate, automate. Security development is continuous. You're never done with security. And then we need government, if you're going to do cloud and leverage a lot of these open source technologies in the cloud, you need a government cloud, you need government expertise, and you need a support structure to understand that and really spearhead that effort, because it will get lost by the people who don't necessarily see the advantage of it. Future for AFSOC, we're going to continue our security evolution. We're going to leverage software as a service more and more. More old migrations and new stand-ups. We are going to focus on global presence and persistency and resilience. We need to move out of the stateside data centers. Can't fight the war all at the United States. Can't get involved with what you have to do. So we're looking at ways to do that in a secure manner. It's a legal mess, but it's also a security mess, but we have to do it. We are going to establish a classified cloud for our instance, leveraging some of the efforts done by the intelligence community and some of the other agencies. Focus on mission networking, Internet of Things. It's already hitting us in the face with sensors and so on our aircraft. Really bringing in the machine learning and the AI to do an assessment of all this data and really get just actionable information out of it. The key for us there is leveraging open source and just the tremendous amount of work being done out there in industry. As we talked about, moving at the speed of adversary, that is critical to this. And then containers and multiple cloud providers. Our goal is within the next few years is we do not have a single cloud vendor, we have multiple cloud vendors with resiliency. And we have a system that can easily span across those. My fear, in all honesty, is something kicks off, we knew we had to fix, we didn't get time to do it, and now we have to proceed without it. These are things that we need to focus on to assure capability for you all and in all of our mission sets. So that's it, and questions, really not in this forum, but we'll do that on another time. Hey, thank you very much for your time.